The campaign to change Australia's constitution presses on, and after a week of pre-poll, there's been a few interesting moments. The first, Yes campaign signage that looked an awful lot like a direction from the Australian Electoral Commission to vote yes. The Yes campaign had to be directed to pull these signs down, but who knows how many voters were tricked before that occurred. Now, it's true that both sides of politics and parties generally have been pulled up for similar types of conduct in past elections. But the court decisions on this issue mean right and wrong has never been clearer than it is right now. And the fact of some people having done the wrong thing in the past should never be used as an excuse to keep doing the wrong thing into the future. Then, strange messaging from the Electoral Commission, which, while technically accurate, appeared to encourage people to break electoral laws and vote more than once. Telling people that if they vote twice, lodging one vote at two different places, that it will still count in the result, is an invitation to electoral fraud. And while that is a crime and prosecution can follow, the damage is already done by then. You know, way to undermine confidence in the democratic process, AEC. And given Victorian Labor's just been exposed for behaviour of this kind internally, where members were signed up from the cemetery and their membership fees paid for them, troublemakers will see this for the easy invitation that it is. Then dear old Ray Martin decided to tell Australians who find the slogan, "If you don't know, vote no," compelling, that they are either you-know-what heads or dinosaurs, because all they have to do is read and then they'll know that yes is the right thing to do. Take a look at this.
If you don't know, find out what you don't know. What that asinine slogan is saying is if you're a dinosaur, a dickhead, who can't be bothered reading, then vote no.
But the problem is there's so little detail on the table about what this voice would do to other legal institutions, who would be on it, how it would be selected, and even more, that even the most engaged citizen could well conclude that, after considering everything on offer, well, they don't know. And is it so unreasonable for a voter to think, well, if I'm not sure it's a good idea, I'm going to err on the side of caution and vote no to changing the document that's at the core of our institutional stability? Well, for my part, I think that's completely logical. And there's an ugly arrogance in blaming voters and calling them names for being unconvinced, when the onus is on those who want to change it to explain what they're doing and to help voters understand it. And quite frankly, if with a war chest of $100 million, the Yes campaign still can't convince people of the merits of their idea, well, either they're not very good at explaining it or it's not a very good idea. I'll let you be the judge. But I'm particularly incensed by a tactic that's been wheeled out by the Yes campaign in Townsville this week. In a full-page ad in the Townsville Bulletin, the most prominent paper in that beautiful part of Queensland, the Uluru Dialogue printed an open letter to federal member for Herbert, Phil Thompson, a decorated veteran who happens to be married to a wonderful Indigenous woman. Now, it's their right to print an open letter if that's what they'd like to do, though it's a bit odd that they don't seem to have actually remembered to post it or deliver it to him. As far as I'm told, it's yet to arrive. But in the last paragraph of that letter, the writers say something extraordinary. And here it is. Quote, "And finally, speaking on behalf of your wife can be perceived as a husband and silencing and controlling his partner. You have demonstrated why Indigenous people, especially Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women, need a platform to voice their concerns. You would do well to let your wife speak for herself. We implore you, Phil, give your wife a voice, not only for herself, but for your children." Close quote. Condescending much? So, since they don't like Phil's views, they seem to think it's fine to basically accuse him of coercive control. which is a form of domestic violence. Now, I happen to know Jenna is a beautiful and strong woman, but one who doesn't love being in the public eye. She's a private kind of person, and that's fine because she's not the local member. But Phil is as entitled as anyone else to inform himself by drawing on the experiences of the Indigenous Australians he knows and talks to, and that includes his wife. To try and pretend this makes him a domestic violence perpetrator is a horribly low blow. It's dishonest and it's cruel. It's an obvious attempt to prejudice voters, particularly women. And the writers of that letter, quite frankly, should be ashamed of themselves. But let me finish this week's wrap-up on a funny one. At pre-poll in Cleveland, the No Volunteers, one of which is the member for Bowman, Henry Pike, well, they had an odd experience. They'd set up a nice little tent, little marquee for shade, and on it they erected an Australian flag. Now, it's the right of any Australian to respectfully fly our national flag in the way that they did, and why wouldn't they? It's a magnificent flag of which all Australians should be proud. Well, the No Volunteers had the bizarre experience of facing a formal complaint from the Yes campaign lodged with the AEC for the crime of, wait for it, flying the Australian flag. Apparently, the Yes volunteers were concerned that no campaigners flying the flag was making the Yes guys look unpatriotic. Now, of course, the Yes campaign was free to fly one too. I'll even send them one for free if they need it. But they didn't want to. Instead, they wanted to coerce proud Australians and force them to take down the flag they wanted to fly. It seems to me that this tells you everything you need to know about the thinking that lies behind the Yes campaign.